Good morning. I am Angie Juzang, co-founder of Legacy Business League. This is the third in this grant writing series. It has been a wonderful journey. I think the feedback that we've gotten from the people that attended, they said that the information has been invaluable. Today, our panelists are really focused in concentrating on the application process, pitfalls to avoid, deadlines to consider, and items that one would really need to make sure that they beef up so that we can have an effective application when it's administered. We always like to start off with Anthony Montgomery. Hancock Whitney has been the series sponsor. This was his brainchild, and would love to hear from him about how he thinks it's going and where we're going from here.
Awesome. Thank you, Miss Angie. I think it's going great. Good morning, everyone, and we want to thank you for joining us today for another Hancock Whitney sponsored virtual event. My name is Anthony Montgomery, Director of Community Development for Hancock Whitney Bank. I'd like to thank all of our expert panelists who've joined us over these past three series and those that will be helping us today. Special thanks to the Legacy Business League for working to bring you this great series, and to Miss Angie Juzang for being honored at the Coast Chambers event as the 2021 Pat Santucci Spirit of the Coast Award winner. Congratulations, Miss Angie, on an award well deserved.
Congratulations.
Today is part 3 of the series, the finale, a comprehensive grant writing roundtable workshop with the expert. Today we'll focus on funding sources and building a sustainable pipeline of funding resources. I will also review some points directly related to the scorecard, and we'll be touching on some of the slides that Dr. Fletcher provided us, as well as Ms. Taylor. We hope to continue to provide you with helpful information that makes your grant writing application more impactful as you share and tell your story. I will again today serve as moderator from a reviewer's perspective, and I will be monitoring the Q&A box for questions throughout the presentation. We hope to allow time for some interactive discussions. And with that, I'll kick it back over to Ms. Angie so we can introduce our panelists and get right down to business. Thank you all again for joining us.
And today, business, it really is, because I think you'll be able to walk away with some very strategic action items and some resources that probably could be used for these impact grants and additional grants that your organizations go out for. So let's just start with introductions, and then we're gonna start with the slides and such with Miss Ashley, but we're gonna let Miss LaCarsha introduce herself and tell us a little bit about you and your position at Hancock Whitney and what you'll be talking about today.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. My name is LaCarsha Babers, and I'm the Assistant Vice President and Community Development Officer for Hancock Whitney Bank. My role here at Hancock Whitney Bank as the Community Development Officer is to strengthen relationships with community partners who have a primary mission involving affordable housing, economic development, community development services to low to moderate income individuals, as well as revitalization and stabilization. One of those community partners that we have is Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas. They provide us grant funding for qualified applicants. And this partnership actually gives the bank an opportunity to apply for these grant funding and pass those funding awards on to our community clients and organizations. So you'll hear more about the grant funding, the resources and opportunities that are provided to us through Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas later in the grant writing session for today. Again, my name is LaCarsha Babers, Community Development Officer for Hancock Whitney Bank.
Fantastic. Okay, Miss Ashley, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and we're going to go ahead and start with you today. So once you introduce yourself, if you want to share your slides and go on it, and I just want to reiterate to everyone, if you have a question for Ashley as she's going through her presentation, please put it in the chat so Anthony and I can kind of peep it and tell her that we want to stop for a second and answer the question. Or once she's finished, I'm going to open it up, and all of you have been allowed to talk in this webinar, except for Ms. Paula. And then I think, Brandon, you're on the phone, so you should be able to unmute yourself. And then that way we can make this a little interactive as we go through the talk today. And I'm going to go off camera so Ms. Ashley can have the focus, but I'll be here monitoring. Take it away, Ms. Ashley.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm waiting for my screen to pop up here. I may have to reshare one more time. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashley Aubrey Harrison. I am with Hancock Whitney Bank, as Angie has spoken of. I am on the team with Anthony and LaCarsha, and we work collectively to uh, enhance community development across the footprint that the bank serves, which stretches from Texas all the way over to Florida, along the entire Gulf Coast. And again, to LaCarsha's point, what we aim to do most times is to partner with organizations such as yourselves to help bring about change and to improve people's life circumstances. And with that, of course, as Angie has also stated, Anthony had a wonderful opportunity in mind, a vision, if you will, of being able to provide more resources to the community by providing this grant writing workshop series to each of you. And so we are just living the vision, Anthony. So I'm going to talk today, and I'm sorry for whatever reason I'm let's see, trying to get my screen. There we go. It's just moving slow. So we're going to talk today, and I'm going to move this if you don't mind. Give me 1 second.
And if you need me to share it and move it for you, that's fine too. I have it pulled up.
Okay, my computer has been slow this morning. I texted Anthony to let you guys know I was
Let me
here.
know what you want me to do.
Okay, let's see. I'll let you know if it
Sure.
continues to get problems
Okay.
here. Okay, so what we're talking about today is the overall fund development strategy that a not-for-profit organization has. So when we say strategy, we're not talking about one grant or one proposal or one capital campaign. Your fund development strategy is exactly that. It is how you determine to get from point A to point B and all of the in-between points. So whether it's determining that you're going to get a certain percentage of federal grant dollars, that you're wanting to go after a certain amount of private dollars, or that you're wanting to go after personal donations, it is encompassing all of those things, along with how you're going to communicate that strategy to all parties involved. So I just wanted to take some time to talk about it holistically, because sometimes it's very easy to get caught up in the weeds so much that organizations can neglect some very key pieces that really make up your overall strategy. So let's just give an overall overview right now. Number one thing is you're going to need a fund development plan. This plan is going to encompass several things we're going to go into details about in just a few moments. Number two is we're going to talk about collaboration. Teamwork does indeed make the dream work. If you want to be looked at as a premier organization, no matter your size, if you want funders to believe that they should invest in you, then you have to be a team player. And that means you have to be involved in not only working with your constituents, but also working within the communities that you're serving, understanding those community needs, et cetera, and working with other like-minded individuals and partners and agencies that are working toward the same end. The other thing we're going to talk about is how to communicate who you are and what you do. That means telling your story. This is very important, and we're going to go into exactly why. Telling your story is not just about sending out a newsletter from time to time. It's also about empowering and equipping your ambassadors. And we're going to speak about who exactly those ambassadors are for your organization. And lastly, we're going to touch on donor stewardship. As we've all been taught in the South, never forget or bite the hand that feeds you. Donors are your biggest ambassadors, and they can only get better with time. Their level of investment and belief in what they can do for you and what you can do for them can only enhance over time. But you have to remember to keep, like a good garden, keep that garden watered, right? Give it the right amount of sunlight. You have to really be mindful of those relationships and manage them in such a way that that donor continues to believe and invest in you.
Ashley, as
So,
you move
okay,
to the next
yes.
slide, do you see this square on your?
Okay, let me let's go back.
It says,
Yes.
please move. We can see that too.
Okay, let's stop sharing. Our system does that. Do you want me to stop sharing and let you share, Angie?
Sure.
Okay, let me do that. Yeah, ours does that sometimes on this end. I'm not sure why.
Can y'all see?
Yes, that looks good.
Yes.
And now,
Yes,
uh, this is the one we're on, the fund develop, do y'all see?
Yes.
Development strategy?
The plan. Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the things we like to talk about is beginning with the end in mind. Speaking back to Anthony's vision for this series, in order for us to have been able to plug all the pieces and all the content together, we had to have an end goal in mind. And that's the case for any type of goal setting or any problem you're looking to solve. You want to know what you believe is going to be, your dream, your vision. What does it look like once this organization is up and running or at it for 20 years successfully? What is that picture? Once you have that in mind, you can sort of back into all of the steps necessary to come up with your grand strategy, okay? So one of the ways organizations do this, of course, is through a strategic planning process. Now, strategic plans are different for everyone. Most organizations either do them on some type of 3-year or 5-year planning periods. But the point of the matter is, first of all, you have to have one, because that strategic plan is going to help you to identify your top and your high performing programs, and also allow you to set goals or metrics for where you see that particular program growing over time. So when you're coming up with the fund development plan, you're going to be looking back at that strategic plan to focus on what are the most important elements of our organization that we need to have funded and why, right? Because you need to know that as you're setting forth your fund development plan. Best practices that I have seen is that although a strategic plan may be done every few years or so, a fund development plan should really be an annual plan, because each year you should really take the time to tweak your plan in and of itself, and to understand what things were successful in the prior year, what areas were areas of concern, areas that you can make improvements in, et cetera. And you also want to take into consideration the environment. So jumping ahead, I just kind of jumped myself there. Step 2 is just that, gathering and analyzing your efforts. Last year, were we able to bring in the $15,000 in private donors that we sought? Last year, did our annual gala help us meet our goals, or did we lose money, etc.? And so you need to take the time each year to look at what was done the prior year, what worked, what didn't work, and how do we set new priorities for the current year. In setting the new priorities for the current year, step 3, we talk about um, establishing the actual goals. What are we going to do this year? And you do have to seriously consider what the funding climate is. So as you all know, right now, we're living in an unprecedented time. You know, we're experiencing the impacts and ongoing impacts, I should say, of COVID-19. And because of that, funders have some very clear goals in mind, some very clear ideas on the types of activities they're interested in investing in. I'll give you an example. At Hancock Whitney, we have a competitive grant program every year. For the past 3 years, we've done this. And some of the previous years, we focused on some of those community reinvestments, staple areas, such as LaCarsha named, right? Are you revitalizing? Are you providing affordable housing? Are you providing some type of community service, et cetera? Last year, as we were all experiencing the negative impacts from COVID-19, and we were all seeing businesses shuttering their doors on every corner, we decided that we were going to focus funds on small businesses. And so that had to do with the environment and what we felt, ways we felt, I should say, we could be most impactful in our communities. So I'm making that point to say, be very aware, keep up with what's going on, keep up with the trends, read often and always, find out, research the funders that you're interested in tapping into, and pay attention to the climate. You may have had the greatest program offering, but because of what was going on, you had to shift gears a bit. That's okay. Your fund development plan should speak to that, and it should be nimble. So going to step 4, determine how exactly you're going to try to tap into funds. So fundraising activities such as grants, uh, contracts. You know, there are times when we can work with other organizations. There are contracts that we can get through the federal government, whether it's through state or even local entities where we can charge per client for certain services. So never forget that. There's also private donors, as we talked about in past, and ways to sort of solicit those sorts of relationships. You want to look at, again, your traditional grant opportunities and things of that nature. So you want to figure out exactly what mix of activities you're interested in, again, for each year. Do I want the bulk of my fundraising to be concerned with grants? And if so, private versus, federal or state or some municipality? Do I want 20% to go towards, again, those private donations or private foundations? So you want to figure out and determine on a yearly basis what areas you're going to focus your energies on, because again, time is money here. And for most organizations, despite their size, the fund development activities are generally only held to either 1 or 2 people in an organization. And sometimes it's something that's being done off the side of someone's desk. And so because of that, you have to be very strategic in terms of which activities each year you're going to focus on. And you need to determine who's going to help you to get there. Again, even at large organizations, there aren't huge fund development teams. So that means you're incorporating your relationships within your organization, or if you're an organization of one, I should say, you're also incorporating different skill sets on your board of directors, right? Your board of directors, let me just say, should always be a part of your fund development team, whether this is a formal thing or informal. In a formal way, your board of directors can have a fund development committee, right? And that committee can meet every other month or quarterly and determine ways in which they can help impact the funding that's coming into the organization. And then there are informal ways that your board can be of service to you, one of which is by being some of your biggest ambassadors. That means when they're at their private functions, in their work life, in their personal lives, that they're speaking to the needs that your organization is addressing, that they're speaking to how impactful you've been, and that they're also utilizing their relationships to solicit new donors, okay? So you have to determine the who when you determine the types of activities that you're going to spend time focusing on. And this also, of course, is your internal team. You know, your executive director, folks that are program heads, they can all participate in some way. So just keep that in mind. In step 5, I talk about developing your timeline. This is very important. And I do notice there are a lot of groups who really don't do this. But what it does is it's really basic, and it allows you to manage your time so that you're not overwhelmed with, you know, the 6 key fundraising activities you have to do, and you're thinking, oh my God, every month I am doing X on all of these things. It's just unrealistic. When you develop a timeline, you can set up points of the year where you're focusing on certain aspects of your plan. There may be a certain time when you focus on what they call individual giving, again, which is those personal donors, people that you're trying to get to care about your organization and to give to your organization. You can have an annual campaign that takes place at a certain time based on where you are in your market and what works for your organization. You can set up times of the year where you're just focusing on those private grants. One of the things that we'll talk about later is knowing your funders, because that's going to help as well when you understand what their funding timelines are. That's going to help you when you're developing the timeline for your overall fund development strategy. And lastly, step 6, evaluate, evaluate, evaluate. Again, after you've gone through your year, whether your year is fiscal, whether it's you are on a different year, an annual year plan, you have to take the time to see what works, see what's not working. And even throughout the year, you know, if you need to change some things up, take the time to do that. Set goals for yourself. I want to be at X by this point of the year, and always constantly monitor and keep tabs on yourself so that you're getting closer to accomplishing your goals. Now, I'll just have to say this. These 6 steps aren't, solid gold, right? These are steps that I came up with through not only research, but in the various years of experience that I've worked with nonprofit organizations and served as a board of directors, and also in working in the nonprofit world myself. I sort of grouped activities. If you look up fund development plan or fund development strategy, you see a lot of sites that say, oh, it's 10 steps, it's 15 steps, it's 9 steps. It's all of those things. But I wanted to talk about this in a way in which it makes it easier to see and clearly to understand that all of those things have a theme. They all fall within a certain theme. There's probably 10 steps to each of these steps, but as long as you're focusing on the overall theme of what they're addressing, you'll be able to, again, come up with something that's solid and workable for your organization, no matter your size. Next slide, please. So let's talk about collaboration. I mentioned this earlier, which is the fact that when you are in a community organization, you need to be very, very equipped with knowledge of what is going on in your surrounding community. Here at the bank, and I know in some of our organizations know these terms well and use them well as well, is the term
Posting
needs
yesterday that
assessment.
was. I love you, dearly, but I don't think y'all know what I do on a daily.
Somebody needs to mute
I'm not saying that for that
in the
reason.
background.
Shit.
Just making sure everybody has it on mute, or unless you have a question. Please continue, Ms. Ashley.
Yes. So one of the things we talk about is doing needs assessments. So it doesn't have to be anything formal. It could be community meetings that you've hosted, surveys maybe that you passed around to your clients that are coming in, or information you've gathered from other local entities that serve your same constituents. The point is, have an idea at all times of what the community's um, weaknesses are in a manner of speaking. Where are some areas that you can improve upon? And beyond that, bigger than that, what they're asking for. What are they asking for? What are their desires for themselves, for their families, for their neighborhoods, etc. And the one thing that allows you to do too, if you're engaging with them, is it allows you to get an opportunity to create more donors, more people that can be ambassadors for your organization, and more people that can give and invest in your organization. And then lastly, community partners. The one thing you want to do at all times is to know the organizations that are doing similar work or work that complements your work, and you want to have established relationships with them. One, because we're always better together. And two, because nowadays funding doesn't happen without collaboration. Funders are not interested in single entities trying to change the world all on their own because they know it's impossible. We have gotten to a point of sophistication where people are no longer looking for that. They know we're better together. They know that we can do more with more resources, and they're looking to leverage the investment dollars and resources that they're sending to your organization. So they want to know that you are collaborating. Next, we're going to talk about communication, right? Now, I know this can get sticky sometimes for younger organizations. They're thinking, well, Ashley, we don't have dollars within our budget to pay for fancy PR and media opportunities. You know, we aren't as large as the national groups, for example. Well, the one thing I say to that is, again, that is where collaboration is key, and also understanding that telling your story, as I have on here, to everyone is what matters. And by everyone, I mean everyone. There are various ways you can communicate who you are and what you do. Let's talk about some of the low-hanging fruit. Now, I talk about creating a communication plan, and I know you guys are like, oh, Lord, here's the third plan she's talking about today. This can be on the back of a napkin, okay? It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to chart it out. This is just your idea for how you want to spread the word about what your organization is about. Low-hanging fruit, email list. If you haven't already, begin creating your own listserv, if you will, which I know is a term people don't use anymore, but it's basically group emails, okay? Create group emails to organizations, to donors, etc., that, and to, you know, clients you've served, so that you can on a regular basis update them on new services that you're offering. You can update them on your progress throughout the year. You can talk about success stories that you've had, etc. Newsletters. Sometimes this can be a little bit more difficult if you're a smaller group, but consider doing maybe a quarterly newsletter or even a biannual newsletter. Maybe you release yours twice a year. Again, it's just another way to get the information out. It's another way to show people what you're doing. Letters. Sounds old fashioned, right? Guess what? They still work. Organizations still write letters to their funders in particular to let them know how they've been doing and to keep them updated on the progress that the organization has made since their last investment. Trust me, funders love receiving those, and it helps you to stay fresh on their minds for the next time you again solicit their dollars. Your website. Most folks have a website now. Never neglect an opportunity to try to show all that you are on your website. Again, that's advertisement that you're paying for it anyway. So you might as well use it to the best of your ability. And then lastly, social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, whoever it is, put it out there. Take pictures of your activities, of times when you're serving your community, and blast it all over social media. You can be the smallest organization and have the largest presence just by focusing on, uh, how you're telling your story. Angie, can you go back? Thank you. We've talked about keeping in touch with donors. This is a very big deal. Again, talking about those letters, whether it's a personal letters, whether it's a personal phone call or a meeting, it matters. Yes, COVID is presented some interesting challenges, but it never hurts to just pick the phone up and say, "Hi, Miss Taylor. Hi, Mr. Montgomery. I just wanted to touch bases with you and let you know this is what we've been able to do the last year. We appreciate you. We hope that your organization is thriving at this time, et cetera, et cetera." It's very important. And then we've talked about PR, but we've not talked about how do you engage in real PR, earned media type of opportunities when you're a small organization. Well, so one of the ways you do that is through your collaborations. Some funders will allow you to um, do success stories with them, and you can get on their website. We've done that, for example, with some of our organizations. You can, with larger nonprofit groups that you may be collaborating with, try to get in some of their press releases, again, by sharing information about clients that you're jointly serving, et cetera. So there are a lot of ways that you can help to spread the good news about your organization. Next slide. Last and certainly not least, back to donor stewardship, relationship management. That's all it is. It's just like if you were in sales, you have to keep up with and know who your donors are. You need to know what their funding interests are. Not every funder funds the same types of activities, right? So as you are seeking and soliciting new investment opportunities, you need to make sure you're soliciting the right donors for the right activities. And as donors' interests change, as you are keeping up and communicating with them, you should know how those interests are evolving so that you know what you can ask for from year to year. And we talked earlier about funding cycles, right? Every donor has a timeline with which they're going to be putting out their annual or biannual, depending on how often they fund, that they'll have grants that are due at certain points of the year. You need to know what those are so that as you're establishing your fund development plan, you're timing your work on those grants during the right time. Communication again, often, but not just with donors. You need to also keep in contact with your community stakeholders. So whether this is your local council person or your mayor or your local HUD representative for our housing groups, those key stakeholders should also always be kept abreast of the activities of your organization, because they're going to come across opportunities where they're looking for organizations to partner with as well. And you want to always be top of mind for those folks. And of course, your board of directors, please don't leave them out of communication. Yes, you may meet on some regular basis. Some boards only meet quarterly. So throughout the year, you need to make sure that you're updating them on your progress just as much as you're updating the overall community. And again, back to what I said earlier, whether it's a letter, whether it's a phone call or an in-person meeting, take the time to engage with what I call our high touch opportunities. Emails are okay, but people are still at heart really wanting that one-on-one personal engagement. Those are the organizations that are continually going to get the grant funds, going to get the contract opportunities, etc. Personal relationships matter in this business. Send updates on progress. And I say this no less than biannually. And that's to your funders specifically, because they need to know how their funds are being put to good use and how you're leveraging their funding. And lastly, but never least, always thank your donors, your volunteers and ambassadors. Let me just say, from our perspective at a bank, there's only so much, there's only so much funding that a financial institution has to go around. The same can be said for a private foundation. No one has a pot of gold. There aren't endless funds. And if you want to maintain a good funding relationship, you need to say thank you. It actually does matter, and it does keep people in the mind frame that you are not only appreciative of the investment that you've received, but also that you care about the relationship, because it's a two-way street. An organization doesn't want to just give money. They want a partnership. They're giving you that money for a reason. They are using that collaboration as an opportunity to create further reach into the communities that they want to serve as well. And so you need to keep that in mind as you're moving through your year and through your fund development strategy. Any questions?
Awesome, awesome. Say, Miss Angie, go back to Ashley's second, I think it was her second or third slide, right? Up one, go back. One, no, go forward. One more. Yeah. Forward, yeah. Well, go back one more, go up. I think it's actually 4, where you were talking about the, but right there, hold it right there. Okay, mapping out communications plan. I wanted to kind of make a focal point on reporting results and the impact of the use of funds, the number of people helped. One of the things that grantors really appreciate is that when you reach back out to them the following year, you kind of give them a recap or a summary on how you use the funds, the impact of those funds, specifically the number of individuals helped. This always gives them an opportunity to help tell your story, to help share your story. And remember, this is always an updated document. The document as was laid out, the 10 parts of your grant writing application, sources and uses of funding, is just a descriptive of the impact of those dollars. And let's remember to use words that the grantor had in that application. I think Dr. Fletcher made a great point of that. And I'm going to harp on one thing here. There's a big difference between the programs and a project. And I'm going to use this example And I'm going to give credit to whoever it was that shared it in series 1 about the program being the elephant and the project being the peanuts, right? And I'm gonna use a good example for one of the nonprofits that's on our actual Zoom call and one that we partner with. Programs, right? That's the ongoing program that your organization funds and runs on an annual basis, daily basis. That's the work that you do. But you may have individual projects that you use to generate money that help fund that program, right? And a good example of a program, I'm going to use Moore Community House. They have Head Start, they have Women in Construction. So Women in Construction is a program, but they may work on a project of building a house for Habitat or refurbishing some homes for Back Bay Mission. Those are actual projects, right? So they can go out and get a program funded, which Hancock Whitney supports them and funds programs. But then they could also go out and get projects funded as well. So there's 2 different buckets there. So let's remember, the program is ongoing. It's the elephant. The projects are specific with timelines, and they are the peanuts that feed the elephant, right? And so I want to open it up now for questions. And if anyone has any questions or comments about anything Ashley shared, let's engage in a little roundtable before Ms. LaCarsha jumps in. And also, I do believe we have a slide that we'll be probably sharing a little later, where to find grant opportunities that Ms. Sarah Taylor provided. We'll put that up on the screen as LaCarsha goes through and reviews some of her specifics about some programs and opportunities with the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas. So with that, I'll open it up. Does anyone have any comments, anything to share? I see Ms. Kiva's joined us, so hopefully she'll have some input for us as well. So I'll turn it over to Q&A now.
And just a reminder that many of you have been allowed to talk. If you're not, it's because you have an older version of Zoom. So you're welcome to open it up, or again, put it in the chat. If we don't, seeing none, we will go on to Ms. LaCarsha then. Ms. Ashley, thank you very much for that piece. If you're going to be here and around, right, with us? Okay. So if we see some questions come in for you, we'll prompt you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ashley.
And so LaCarsha, I'm going to cue yours up too, just in case.
Okay.
But you're able to share.
Okay, you want to pull it up for me? It's not coming up for me for some reason.
Okay.
I'm sure it's something I'm doing, of course.
That's all right. Let's see.
Did you hit the share screen button at the bottom, LaCarsha?
Let's see here.
And is it actually giving you a share screen option?
Yes, I see.
Okay, so that you are a host, so you have the ability to do it. But I'm happy to. I'll do it right now.
Thank you.
All right, I see a question in the chat box. Do you recommend electronic newsletters, communications to donors, or hard copies? And that's a question for Ms. Ashley.
So definitely for those, electronic is best. People want to get their news quick and fast nowadays. So that's where electronic communication becomes your friend.
Yeah, great point. And electronic communication also gives that funder or grantor an opportunity to share it as well. It's a lot easier to send out a digital or electronic file than it is to send out a hard copy. And that doesn't mean you don't want to use hard copies to distribute amongst your clients and your walk-in traffic. But for individuals that you're submitting it to, a lot of times I'll get a hard copy and an electronic copy. But that electronic copy makes it very easy to share with others as we communicate and help you tell your story. Great question.
And easier to produce, month to month or quarter to quarter too.
Right.
So are y'all seeing my emails, or y'all seeing the presentation?
We see the presentation now.
Okay, excellent. All right. So let's see, but it's not moving for me. Uh-oh. Let me share another part. Let me do this. me do this differently. Share screen. I'm going to put it here. Share. All right. There we go. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
You can see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. There we
Okay,
go.
I'm seeing emails.
You see my emails? Oh, Lord.
Yes, emails.
Thank you for that. How about now?
Yes.
Okay, you're good.
Okay.
Okay, wait a minute. So now, okay, there we go.
Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
I love this new technology. It's the world of Zoom.
You're right.
Awesome.
Okay, great. Like Ashley mentioned in her presentation, we are better together. And with the right connections and the right partners, we can impact more lives and individuals and households than we could if we were just working alone. So this morning, I'll be talking about some resources and opportunities that are available through Federal Home Loan Bank. I'll be talking about, from an administrative point of view, talking about the program overviews, required documentation, income requirements, due dates, deadlines, and availability of funding. So we can move to the next slide. Okay, just to give you a little background about Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas, which is we are a partner with them. We are a member. The Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas actually developed its community investment program in 1990, and they have an array of community development programs that are provided to its members and the community development organizations. Now, in order for you to apply for a Federal Home Loan Bank grant, you do need to apply through a member institution, and Hancock Whitney is a member of the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas. And then those grant fundings are passed down to us and our community organizations, and then passed on into the community or the individuals that's actually applying for the grant. Hancock Whitney has been a partner of the Federal Home Loan Bank projects and programs dated back to 1999. In the next few slides, I will show you just how effective we have been in meeting the needs of the communities in which we serve.
We are having trouble watching your slides. There is no slide.
There is no slide.
What are you seeing?
I am seeing the
I
slide.
see the slides. I'm seeing the slides.
I see them also.
I think that you're one. Is this Miss Paula?
Oh, no, that's Miss Myrick. That's Miss Alexander.
Okay, because the reason I'm saying is I've been getting prompts that people are using old versions of Zoom, so they may not be able to see this feature.
Yeah, Miss Alexander, we'll get these slides out to everyone, both decks that Ashley and LaCarsha has reviewed. We'll get those out along with the deck that Dr. Fletcher shared. So if you can be patient, we'll get those out within the next day or so.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. But again, these are some of the grants that we are able to apply for on an annual basis. Now, this will just give you an overview, a brief description of the various grants, resources that are available. But we will, if you are interested in any of these programs, just let us know and we'll be happy to inform you once Federal Home Loan Bank hosts their annual webinars that gives you the detailed descriptions and information about their various grants. But I'm just going to give you a basic overview today. We'll be talking about the Affordable Housing Program, also known as the AHP. We'll be talking about the Home Buyer Equity Leverage Partnership Program, also known as the HELP, the Special Needs Assistance Program, also known as SNAP, the Partnership Grant Program, which is actually a round that's open annually, but it has a short window, also known as the PGP, and the Disaster Rebuilding Assistance Program. Next slide. Well, this slide will actually show you how effective Hancock Whitney has been in reaching the communities in which we serve. As you see, we have been able to facilitate over $9.3 million in affordable housing program grants to nonprofits. We've assisted home buyers with $797,000 in grant funding. We facilitated $588,000 in special needs assistance program grants. And I'll give you more insight on these individual grants and their the purpose and so forth in the later slides. But I wanted to show you just how effective we have been in reaching the communities with these grant funds that are provided to us through Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas. We facilitated $616,000 special disaster grant funding. So there's an array of programs. We'll talk about a few of those, as I mentioned, but this is just to give you an overview of how successful we have been. The first grant that we'll actually talk about is the Affordable Housing Grant. Now, the Affordable Housing Grant can be used for the purchase, construction, or rehabilitation of owner-occupied and rental housing. The AHP grant, they are awarded to nonprofit and government entities which create and sustain affordable housing. Now, in order to qualify for these grants, the homeowner must benefit, the grant or the project must benefit homeowners whose median income does not exceed 80%. So if they are at the 80% or below median income range, then they could qualify as far as income for these particular grants. Just to give you an example, for 2021, the median income range for a family of 4 in Gulfport, Mississippi, their income does not need to exceed $48,500 for a family of 4. Again, for 2021, now these median incomes change on an annual basis, but for 2021, the median income range for Gulfport, Mississippi is for a family of 4, $48,500. Family of 3, $43,650. And we can give you more details, if you need it for specific areas. So it depends on the area that you're living in and the number of individuals in the household, whether or not you would qualify at the 80% median income range. Most of the funds are awarded to groups developing or rehabilitating multifamily and single family units. The AHP grant is based on a scoring system. So it depends on your score for the AHP grant. It's a lot different from some of the others. And the applications that are achieving the highest scores will receive priority for funding. The application round for the AHP grant, it actually started April the 1st, and it's going to be extended to May the 18th. The original deadline was today, the 13th, but we had some technical difficulties, and so they sent out late yesterday afternoon and indicated that there will be an extension for completing those applications for the AHP program. And as you saw in the previous slide, Hancock Whitney has been able to facilitate and manage $9.3 million of AHP funding to various nonprofits and qualifying partners. The next slide. Now, this particular slide is the Homebuyer Equity Leverage Partnership, the HELP grant, and it's basically to assist the low-income qualified first-time homebuyers, bank mortgage customers with their down payment and closing cost assistance. Now, these grants are used strictly for down payment and closing cost assistance. The funding, if the grant funding is awarded, they can't be used, or you can't receive cash back from these grant fundings. It has to go toward your down payment and closing cost. And it is income driven. You do need to be at the 80% median income range or below in order to qualify for its income. And you are required to contribute at least $500 of your own funds for this particular grant. And homebuyer education courses are required, but a part of this grant, a portion of this grant will cover the cost of the homebuyer counseling requirement. And the first-time home buyers are eligible to receive up to $5,500 in grant assistance. And if the member bank actually provides the first mortgage for the HELP grant, you can get up to $8,500. So it just depends. If we're the first mortgagee on it, you can be awarded up to $8,500 in grant funding. Now, the member cap for the HELP grant for 2021 is $225,000, and this is the maximum that we actually have access to. It doesn't mean that there is a fund that's set aside specifically for Hancock Whitney Bank or any other member. It specifically means that we have access to these funds, and it's based on a first come, first served basis. So it depends on whether or not funds are still available. But the grant is open annually. It starts in January and it ends in December the 31st, unless funds have already been exhausted. So whichever comes first. And the Federal Home Loan Bank has assisted since its conception or since our partnership, 797,000 in help grant funds to date.
So LaCarsha, you're telling us this so we can tell our customer base, basically for the people that are on the call right now, they obviously help some socioeconomically challenged individuals. So
Absolutely.
you're sharing this primarily so we can get the word out about this program?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and let me chime in. So all the programs that LaCarsha is going over right now are grant opportunities that are available through the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas. Now, some organizations that's on this call may be applying for this type of grant, and she's going to go over other grants that others may be applying for. But this grant tells you specifically what the funds need to be used for. And that's pretty much, you know, in the description. Now, one key is that you have to have a member bank sponsor you. And we are the sponsor bank for some of these programs. And so each one of these grant opportunities or program opportunities through the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas are ones that Hancock Whitney participates in and sponsors organizations that want to apply. A great example she's going to go over a little later is the PGP, Partnership Grant Program. Last year, we sponsored 6 organizations right here along the coast and only had one winner. The deal there is that you apply for that grant and it's like a lottery. You can win up to 3 times what the sponsor bank has sponsored you. An example of that is we sponsored Mercy Housing. Let's say hypothetically $5,000, right? They could win an additional 15 from the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas to put with our 5 to give them a $20,000 grant for that year, right? And so when we started talking about the vision of this workshop, it was specifically because when I submitted 6 organizations from the coast and only one won, I said, we got to fix that. I want to see all 6 win, or at the very least, I want to see 3 of them win. And so we're going to continue to have you submit those. We're going to continue to sponsor you because at the very least, even if you don't win, you receive the funds from the sponsor bank that you'll be able to use in your program. And so all of these programs are opportunities to apply through the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas through your sponsor bank, Hancock Whitney. Back over to you, Ms. LaCarsha. Great job.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great points, Anthony, and great points, Angela. Thank you so much for chiming in. And as he mentioned, the partnership grant, I'll talk about that in the next slide, I believe, but it is based on a lottery system. So it's a little bit different from the other grants that they provide, and as well as the AHP grant that's based on a scoring system. The partnership grant is based on a lottery system. But I think the next slide we're doing is the special needs assistance grant. I'm
Sure.
sorry, you had another question?
Yes, some that have come in, I want to make sure that we get these as it pertains to this one.
Okay.
Let's see, it says, when you say contribute 500 of your own funds, are you referring to the nonprofit or the home buyer?
The home buyer, I'm sorry, yes. The home buyer would need to contribute at least $500 of their own funds in order to qualify for the grant, in addition to the other requirements as far as income and so forth.
Okay.
Great question.
Let's see, there we go.
Any other questions?
I'll you can move on. I'll
Okay.
I think this is I think these are just more statements. Low income, this is a HUD grant. Jefferson Parish give 50K to Jefferson Parish residents and 60K to Kennard residents. You must be FTHB. That was from Ms. Lewis on both of those. And if Ms. Lewis, if when she finishes a couple more slides, if you want to chime in and tell us a little bit more about what you meant by that, that'd be awesome. But yeah, let's go on to the SNAP program.
Okay, the SNAP program, the Special Needs Assistance Program, it's a grant that's actually provided to help assist homeowners with making repairs to the structure of their home or to modify their home to make their home more handicap accessible. It's for individuals with special needs, and to qualify for special needs, you could either be an elderly individual over the age of 55, you could have a mental or physical disability, you can be recovering from drug addiction or alcohol abuse, just to name a few things that will qualify you as a special needs individual, or to have at least one special needs person in the household. And the SNAP grant funding, you can be awarded up to $6,000 for this particular grant. Again, it's basically to make repairs to the structure of the home. You need to have at least one person in the household with a special need, and the person with the special need needs to be inside of the home. And the homeowner, at least one homeowner, needs to be in the home as well. So many of the grants that we've received have multiple owners of the property. Sometimes you'll have family members that have maybe, passed on or moved away and have multiple owners of the property. That's fine. We can assist you with getting that documentation executed properly, but at least one of the homeowners must live on the property, and at least one person in the household will need to be qualified as a special needs individual. Again, over 55, mentally, physically disabled, or recovering from drug addiction or alcohol abuse could qualify as a special needs individual. And you can be awarded up to $6,000 per household, and it is income driven, 80% of the median income, depending on the area you live in and how many people are actually in the household. There is a member cap on the special needs assistance program. For 2021, it's 60,000. Again, that's not automatically given to the member banks. That's just the amount that we have access to. And that's the round for the special needs assistance grant is a very short window. It's normally a couple of weeks that the ground is open at the first couple of weeks in January. So if you have an organization that you'd like to partner with, an affordable housing agency, I do know in Gulfport, Anthony, help me remember the name of the organization that we reached out to.
You're talking about the one in Hattiesburg or Hancock?
Yes, in Hattiesburg.
Hattiesburg was Twin Forks Rising.
Yes, thank you so much. We reached out to that organization. I'm not sure if they're on the line again this morning, but we reached out to that organization, and they had some clients that they had been working with that had a need to make some repairs to the structure of their home. They qualified as far as income and as far as the needed assistance. So we were able to assist them with funding for their clients as well. And as you can see, Hancock Whitney has been able to facilitate 588,000 of those grant funds to individuals that have the special needs.
Thank you. And I'll move on to the next slide. But question, if there is, I think what I would like to know when we send out our resource guide to the participants is if you are currently funding any local agencies, because from my perspective, I'm in corporate America. I'm not in nonprofit, but these are some fantastic opportunities. So I'm going to be working to facilitate to make sure that I get the word out that these things even exist. The people the audience on the phone, they're definitely determining how they can, qualify to be facilitators for these programs. But if you're already funding them, like what you said with Mercy Housing, I would love to ensure that we get the names of those agencies. But in the event there's not anybody, for example, with that is facilitating the SNAP grant, do they contact Hancock Whitney directly, or is this always done through a facilitator, like a nonprofit agency?
If I'm hearing your question correctly, and it's a great question, if you have an agency that actually has their primary purpose as affordable housing or community development services, and they have clients that they are actually working with that would benefit from these types of services, they would reach out to that agency, and that agency, if they are our partner, then we could help facilitate that actual request for them. In order to apply for the grants, then you would have to apply through Federal Home Loan Bank through a member. So they would definitely have to reach out to Hancock Whitney Bank, but they need to be a partner with Hancock Whitney Bank in order to participate in the grant funding, if that makes sense.
Right.
So don't contact y'all directly.
Not the individuals, but the actual organization.
Right, the organization.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And Ms. Angie, just to elaborate, most of our nonprofit organizations know that they can go on the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas's website to find out how to become an administrator of some of these programs. Most of them participate in those programs. There are going to be instances when an individual may have an opportunity to participate, and he'll look for a member bank. And in fact, LaCarsha and I had that exact scenario last year, where we had to reach out and find an organization in Hattiesburg to try to facilitate a disaster assistance grant on our behalf, because we wanted to support what that customer was asking for and sponsor them through the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas. But as the sponsor, we couldn't be the one who originated the request. So we had to find a member organization that could facilitate that. And then we provided as a sponsor. And so normally you go through the nonprofit, and the nonprofit submits it, and then the sponsor approves it, and then it's facilitated in that manner. You and I, LaCarsha, will circle up, and we'll get you additional information to distribute to everyone about those.
Excellent. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet now because we do have 8 minutes and you have 7 slides left. So if you do a minute a slide, we're good.
Okay, that's fine. That's perfectly fine.
And if everyone wants to stick on after it's over, we'll take questions and continue.
Okay, awesome. I'll be real quick. Partnership grant, it's open right now. It closes, I believe, May the 18th. And it's a grant. You can get up to $12,000 to help strengthen your relationship between community-based partners and banks. And it's a 3-to-1 match, like Anthony mentioned earlier. And you could get additional funding, but there will need to be a contribution made from the member bank in the same year prior to applying for the PGP grants. And again, it's based on the lottery system. And
where do you go to apply for this?
You would, first of all, contact us at Hancock Whitney Bank if you are a community partner, but individuals would actually, like we mentioned earlier, would have to reach out to that actual nonprofit organization or community-based organization that has their primary mission, economic development, community services, and so forth.
Okay, yeah, I'm speaking about the organization.
Organization. So almost every organization on this call could be eligible for this grant, and they can go to the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas's website to put in the application. And if they select Hancock Bank, our member number will automatically populate to that application, or they can reach out to LaCarsha and I to get that member number information. Yes, and so this is the growth program that I mentioned that I sponsored 6 organizations from the Gulf Coast on last year, and we only had 1 winner. So this is the one I would like everyone to try to apply for. Back over to you, Ms. LaCarsha.
Absolutely, but keep in mind, we do need to have to make a contribution to that organization prior to them submitting, and then that round ends. It's a really short window. But the next slide, the disaster relief program, it's basically for individuals who are in disaster declared areas, and they need additional funding to make repairs to the structure of their homes that their insurance company may not have covered, or FEMA may not have gotten enough money from FEMA or any other government agencies to make those repairs to their home. And it's based on a first come, first served basis. It is income driven. And again, it does need to be in one of the 5 districts of Federal Home Loan Bank, and that's Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Texas, and New Mexico. So if you live in any of those 5 areas and you're at the 80% median income range and you are in an area that has been declared disastrous, then you could qualify for the disaster relief program. So again, and these other slides will just give you an idea of how effective we've been in meeting the needs of the community. You'll see various grants that we have facilitated and passed on to our partners, and the amount of funding that we've been able to distribute. But just keep in mind, don't forget about the deadlines, avoid outdated income verification, reach out to us for additional questions, resources. We'll be happy to. We even do one-on-ones with our community partners, but we definitely want to make sure you are aware of these programs that are offered through Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas. Like I said, there's an array of programs that are offered, but these are just a few, just to give you just a little snippet or just an overview of what we do and how we can be effective in the communities we serve.
Sure. Okay, so I'm going to monitor the Q&A and chat, and or if anyone wants to ensure that they're unmuted and ask any questions. Ms. Lewis, did you want to try to give us a little bit of insight of what you were referring to? Or if you have any questions about the grants, you had put some comments in the chat, or perhaps you're doing that because you're not able to ask verbally.
Miss Angie, while she's asking, can you put up that slide from Miss Sarah Taylor where to find grants, or either give me sharing ability and I'll put it up?
No, I'll be happy to.
Can I just
Ms.
ask
Lewis, go
quickly?
ahead.
I'm sorry. The disaster relief grant program, is there a financial cap on each of those that you award or that are awarded?
It's just based on a first come, first served basis, and you are able to get per qualifying household up to $10,000 to
Perfect.
help you with those repairs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question.
JC?
Oh, that's it. Yes.
Okay,
Blow that
yeah.
up.
I would, and this is definitely can go out in the packet, and I think I got it out just after the last workshop last week, the video and the slides, and so I may not get it out that quickly today, but looks like if Ashley LaCarsha will share yours, and then Miss Sarah right here, we have a few resources that may already be familiar with some folks. Background research on nonprofits. Candid.org is the new name of the newly merged Foundation Center, plus a guide star. Use this source to look up 990s, research various foundation prospects, and then the foundation directory online, as well as Grant Watch, and for federal grants, grants.gov. And in the greater New Orleans region, she has a link there too.
Yep.
Some of the tips that she wanted to point out is to be sure you narrow your search criteria to ensure alignment of the grants sources, geographic program area, and budget guidelines before you begin working on the application. Also, some continued resources, helpful search terms when using search engines. Examples are housing grants for seniors, anti-hunger grants for children, capital grant for children, like for example, Children's Museum. If you use search criteria that is too broad, like Mississippi grant, capital grant, grant for art festival, be prepared to spend a lot of time sifting through opportunities that likely will not be a good fit. So sounds to me like what she's saying is be a little granular in your search.
Exactly. All right, great information. And remember, when those reviewers are looking at your application, not only are they going to follow that scorecard and score it based on that criteria, but they're also going to be looking at strengths and weaknesses of the program or the project to try to help identify those. And so as much as you can, be very descriptive, use keywords, and ensure that you're really telling your story with statistical data to show the impact of the project or the programs that you're asking for grant funds to support. We really hope this information was very helpful for you all. I hope that it's something that you would like to see on an annual or at least every other year basis. I think we can easily find opportunities to do that. I hope that eventually we can share this information in person. I will be engaging Dr. Fletcher and Ms. Sarah Taylor about just that for 2022 or somewhere later in that year. But I like to get this information out to you before the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas's grants open up, so that you'd have an opportunity while it's fresh on your mind to go out there and get those applications in. And even if you are not the best grant writer, just remember to put it out there, put it on paper, continue to update it, and eventually you will get it to where you want it to be.
Now, Anthony, can y'all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this scorecard made available during the grant application, or is this just for the reviewers?
That's just for the reviewer, and it's one that the Greater New Orleans Foundation shared with one of the grant application proposals that I was asked to participate in and score. And so they basically update those each year based on the specific granted program that they're going to be asking that reviewer to look at. And that just happened to be one that I participated in. I think that was from 2018 or 19 from the Greater New Orleans Foundation.
And it looks pretty standard, you
It
know.
does.
So-
It is. And they'll add questions as needed. And what they do is they take that application or that scorecard, and each reviewer scores each grant application. I think I had to score 30 applications that year. And I score those applications, and then I send that reviewer scorecard in. Greater New Orleans Foundation then, and it's done electronically. It captures the scores from all reviewers to get an average, and then that score is submitted. So I don't know how Ashley or LaCarsha may have scored an application if we were on the same team or if we weren't on the same team, meaning that they may have been reviewing applications from Texas. I may have been reviewing applications from Tampa. But
Right.
however they divide you up, all the applicant scorecards or all the reviewer scorecards are accumulated, and that's how they determine the top 5 winners.
Okay. And then Ms. Lewis said that she works for Hancock Whitney and that she can send some information about the funds are used as needed, meaning DP or closing. I'm not familiar with those terms, so I'm sure she'll explain it when she sends it, and then we can send it out to you.
Oh, yes, so that's for the HELP grant program, which is something we're allowed to use as we are getting mortgage loan applications. So that's for a client who is in the mortgage loan application with us. If they're working with our folks and HELP funds are available, they can apply.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ashley.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I think we did great. We actually had more participants than the last one, and we're ending 7 minutes earlier than the last one. We haven't. So unless anybody has any other questions or any closing comments, I think that this has been a fantastic series. I love the fact that we've made the resources available to the participants in addition to, I don't know, is it fair to send out to people who couldn't, who weren't here the whole time? Like, hey, Lord, I think you get a bell and whistle because I think you were on all 3, and we appreciate that. So,
Yay.
If we
Um,
missed one, I'm sorry, I missed last week's. Is that available anywhere?
it is. It's actually on Legacy Business League's YouTube page.
Okay,
I'm
perfect.
going to put it all in the same place on our website with the big Hancock Whitney logo, Anthony, next to it. So that just I'll make sure to send it out. What I've been doing is going back to the registration, and that's why we have you register so we can keep in touch with you. And I've been capturing those emails and making sure that the people who, at least those who attended, are receiving the updated information. Really, everybody who registered. So so you absolutely will have access to it. Okay. Well, we appreciate you, and I think that concludes our series, and I can't wait until we have another one and we can celebrate the successes of efficient and effective grant applications.
Awesome. Thank you all. I hope it's been as enjoyable for you as it has been for us. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.